Ethan grew up in a small town where nothing really exciting ever happened. Most days, he worked at his father's repair shop, fixing old cars and bikes for the neighbors. He liked the simple life, but sometimes, late at night, he looked at the stars and wondered if there was more out there. He had always been curious about space and stories of life on other worlds. Sometimes his friends teased him for believing in aliens, but Ethan did not care. He liked to dream. One night, a strange storm came over the town. It was louder and brighter than any storm he had seen before. Blue lightning danced across the sky, and the thunder sounded almost like music. Ethan was about to go to bed when he saw a flash of light behind the woods at the edge of town. The light was not like lightning. It was bright and steady, and it did not go away. His heart beat fast as he decided to check it out. He grabbed his flashlight and a jacket, and he slipped out the back door so his father would not notice. The woods were dark, but Ethan knew the paths. As he walked, he felt something strange in the air, like the world was holding its breath. He reached a clearing, and there he saw something that made him stop and stare. There was a small ship, silver and blue, shaped like nothing he had ever seen. It was half hidden by fallen trees and broken branches. Smoke came from one side, but the lights on the ship still glowed. Ethan was scared, but he was more curious than afraid. He walked closer, moving slowly, trying not to make a sound. As he got near, he heard a voice. It was soft and weak, calling out in a language he did not understand. He looked around and then saw her. She was lying next to the ship, her body small and thin, dressed in strange clothes. Her hair was pale blue and her skin had a light purple color, almost shining in the dark. Her eyes were big and bright, and they looked right at Ethan. For a moment, Ethan did not know what to do. He wanted to run, but something in her eyes stopped him. She looked scared and hurt, but also hopeful. He knelt beside her and spoke softly, trying to tell her he wanted to help. She did not speak his language, but she seemed to understand his gentle tone. She reached out her hand and touched his arm, her fingers cold and shaking. Ethan saw that her leg was hurt. He did not know much about first aid, but he wanted to help. He took off his jacket and wrapped it around her leg to stop the bleeding. She winced in pain but nodded in thanks. He looked back at the ship and saw that it was broken badly. He tried to remember all the things he had learned about machines from working in his father's shop. Maybe, if he could fix cars and bikes, he could help her ship too. She watched him carefully as he walked around the ship. She pressed something on her wrist, and suddenly Ethan heard her voice in his mind, speaking in his own language. It was not loud, it felt like a whisper in his head. She told him her name was Elira. She said she was a traveler from another world, and her ship had been shot down by enemies who wanted to catch her. She did not know where she was, but she needed help. Ethan could hardly believe it, but he trusted her. She looked scared, but not dangerous. He promised to help her hide until her ship could be fixed. Together, they pushed the broken ship deeper into the woods, covering it with branches and leaves. It took all night, and both of them were tired and hungry by morning. Ethan brought her food from his house and water from the stream. Elira tasted the food carefully and then smiled. She said she liked the sweet apples the best. Days passed. Ethan spent every moment he could helping Elira. After work, he would bring her parts and tools. She showed him how some of the strange machines worked, and he showed her how to use a wrench and screwdriver. They laughed when things broke and cheered when they fixed something together. Even though they came from different worlds, they learned to trust each other. Sometimes Elira told him about her home. She said her world had 2 suns and blue forests. Her people were peaceful, but now there was war, and she was a princess who had to fight. She missed her family and friends, but she was glad to have Ethan's help. Ethan told her about his life in the small town, about his family, and about his dreams of seeing the stars. Elira listened and said that maybe one day he could visit her world. They became close friends. They watched the stars at night and wondered if someone out there was looking for them. Ethan knew that he would never forget these days, even if no one ever believed him. He felt special, like he was part of something bigger than himself. But Not everyone in the town was as kind as Ethan. One night, some boys from the town saw strange lights in the woods. They started asking questions and looking around. Ethan knew they had to be careful. He made up stories to keep people away, saying there were wild animals in the woods or that he saw a bear. Illyra trusted him to keep her safe, and Ethan promised he would not let anyone hurt her. As the days went by, Illyra's ship started to work again. She was happy but also sad. She knew she would have to leave soon. Ethan felt the same way. He did not want to lose his new friend. He tried to be brave and smile, but he felt a heavy weight in his heart. One evening, Illyra came to Ethan as the sun was setting. She said that her ship was almost ready. She would have to leave before her enemies found her. Ethan nodded, trying not to cry. He asked her if she would ever come back. Illyra looked at him, her eyes shining with tears. She said she did not know, but she would never forget him. She pressed a small crystal into his hand and told him to keep it safe. She said it was a piece of her world and it would help him remember her. That night, Ethan watched as Illyra fixed the last part of her ship. The sky was clear and the stars seemed brighter than ever. Illyra hugged Ethan and thanked him for everything. She climbed into her ship and the lights glowed blue and gold. With a soft sound, the ship lifted off the ground and rose into the sky, disappearing into the stars. Ethan stood alone in the clearing, the crystal in his hand. He watched the sky for a long time, hoping for one last glimpse of his friend. The woods were quiet and the world felt empty. But in his heart, Ethan knew he had done something important. He had made a friend from another world, and he would never forget her. Over the next days, Ethan tried to go back to his old life. He went to work, fixed cars, and talked to his friends. But nothing felt the same. At night, he would look at the stars and hold the crystal, remembering the strange girl with blue hair and shining eyes. He wondered where she was, if she was safe, and if she was thinking of him too. The people in town soon stopped talking about the strange lights and the storm. Life went on, but for Ethan, everything had changed. He missed Illyra every day, but he knew he had to be strong. He promised himself that, no matter what happened, he would never forget her, and he would always keep the secret of the girl from the stars. Years passed after that night in the woods. Ethan grew older, but the memory of Illyra never left him. Sometimes he felt like it had all been a dream, but then he would see the crystal she gave him, shining softly in the dark, and he knew it was real. He kept the crystal in a small box on his bedside table. Whenever he felt lonely or sad, he would hold it in his hand and remember her gentle voice, her bright eyes, and the way she smiled when they fixed something together. The small town changed slowly over the years. People moved away and new people came. Ethan's father retired, and Ethan took over the repair shop. He worked hard every day, fixing cars, bikes, and sometimes even old radios. People liked Ethan because he was honest and always tried to help, but no one really knew him. He kept to himself and did not talk much about his feelings. When his friends asked if he ever wanted to leave town or do something different, Ethan just smiled and said he liked things the way they were. At night, though, Ethan still looked at the stars. Sometimes he thought he saw something move across the sky, something that flashed blue and gold, and for a moment his heart would race with hope. But it was always gone in an instant, and he would sigh and go back to bed. He wondered what happened to Illyra. Was she safe? Did she ever think of him? Would he ever see her again? The years made Ethan a little more quiet, a little more careful with his dreams. He never told anyone the real story of what happened that night in the woods. If people asked, he just said he liked to take long walks and look at the stars. Only the crystal and the memories kept him going, even when life felt heavy. One summer, a big storm came to the town. The sky turned dark in the middle of the day, and the wind howled through the trees. Ethan sat in his shop, watching the rain beat against the windows. He had finished his work early and was about to go home when the power went out. He sat in the dark, listening to the thunder, feeling the same strange energy he felt all those years ago. The storm lasted for hours. When it finally ended, the air felt clean and cold. Ethan walked outside to check if anything was broken at the shop. The streets were empty and quiet. He noticed something strange in the sky, a glow far away behind the woods. It looked almost like the light he had seen on the night he met Alira. His heart started to beat faster, but he told himself it was just a trick of the light. Still, he could not stop thinking about it. Late that night, after he finished his dinner, he went outside again. He walked past the houses and down the old road to the woods. Everything was quiet except for the sound of water dripping from the leaves. As he got closer to the place where he had found Alira's ship, he felt a shiver run down his back. The clearing looked the same as always. Trees circled the open space, and the grass grew thick and tall. There was nothing there, no ship, no lights, just the silent shadows. Ethan stood for a long time, feeling a mix of hope and sadness. He turned to go back home, thinking that maybe it was time to let go of the past. But then, as he stepped onto the path, he heard something, a strange, soft humming sound, like a machine running far away. He turned around quickly, his eyes searching the darkness. At first he saw nothing. Then he noticed a figure standing at the edge of the clearing, tall and silent, almost hidden by the shadows. The figure was wearing dark, shining armor that seemed to reflect the light from the stars. The helmet covered the face, and a long cloak flowed behind them. Ethan felt fear rise in his chest, but at the same time, he felt something familiar, something he could not explain. He took a step forward, his voice shaking as he called out, asking who was there. The figure did not answer right away. Instead, they walked slowly toward Ethan, moving with a smooth, careful grace. As they got closer, Ethan could see that the armor was marked with blue and gold patterns, and there was a symbol on the chest that looked like a star with 2 lines through it. He felt the crystal in his pocket grow warm, as if it knew something he did not. When the figure stopped just a few feet away, they reached up and removed the helmet. Under the helmet was a face Ethan had never stopped thinking about. Her hair was still pale blue, though now it was longer, tied back in a simple braid. Her eyes were bright and clear, and her skin glowed softly in the moonlight. It was Alira. For a moment, Ethan could not speak. His breath caught in his throat, and he felt tears sting his eyes. He reached out, not sure if she was real, but when she smiled at him, all his doubts disappeared. Alira said his name softly, and her voice sounded just like it had in his memories. She stepped closer and touched his arm, her fingers warm and gentle. Ethan felt a rush of feelings, joy, surprise, and something like relief. He wanted to ask her 1,000 questions, but all he could say was that he had missed her. Alira smiled and told him that she had missed him too, every day since they said goodbye. She told him she had searched for him across many worlds, but it had taken her a long time to find him again. Ethan and Alira sat on a fallen tree at the edge of the clearing, just like they had years ago. She told him her story, how she became a warrior princess, how she fought to protect her people, and how she never forgot the human who helped her when she needed it most. Her life had been hard and full of danger, but thinking about Ethan gave her strength when things were darkest. Ethan listened to her words, feeling proud and amazed by everything she had done. He told her about his own life, about the repair shop, his father, and how nothing ever seemed as special as the time they spent together. They laughed about old memories and made new ones, sitting under the stars and sharing stories until the sky began to lighten with the coming dawn. As the sun rose, Alira grew serious. She said she had come back to find him because she needed his help. She could not tell him everything yet, but she said she was in danger and so was her world. She needed someone she could trust, someone brave and clever, someone who cared about more than just themselves. She said she knew Ethan was that person. Ethan felt a little afraid, but also excited. He wanted to help Alira, just like before. He promised her that he would do whatever he could, no matter what it cost. Alira smiled, relief showing on her face. She said they would have to leave soon, before anyone noticed she was there. They walked back to Ethan's house together, keeping to the shadows and moving quietly. When they reached his room, Alira looked around with curiosity. She touched the crystal he kept on his table and smiled, saying she was glad he had kept it safe all these years. As they sat together, Ethan realized how much he had missed having someone to talk to, someone who understood him. He felt the old spark of adventure return, the same feeling he had when he was a boy. With Illyra back in his life, anything seemed possible. He did not know what challenges lay ahead or what dangers waited for them beyond the stars. But as he looked at Illyra, he knew one thing for sure: he would never let her go again. Whatever happened, they would face it together. And in that moment, as the sunlight touched the crystal on his table, Ethan knew his life was about to change forever. The world seemed to move slowly for Ethan after Illyra came back into his life. Every hour felt important and full of meaning. He was surprised at how quickly he remembered the old feelings of trust and friendship between them. Even though years had passed, being with Illyra again felt natural, as if the time apart had never happened. She was still the same, but stronger and wiser. Now she wore armor and carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had seen many things. For the first hours, Ethan tried to catch up with everything that had happened in Illyra's life. He listened as she explained how she had become a warrior and a leader for her people. She told him about the battles she fought and the worlds she had visited. Sometimes her voice grew soft and her eyes looked far away, as if she could still see those other places. Ethan wanted to ask questions, but he did not want to make her sad. Instead, he sat beside her and listened. After a while, Illyra asked Ethan if he still remembered how to keep secrets. She said she could not risk being found by her enemies. Not now, Ethan promised he would help her again, just like before. She told him that her ship was hidden far from town, deep in the woods. She had landed there the night before, right as the storm began. It was not safe for her to stay long, but she needed to speak with him face to face. Ethan nodded, feeling both nervous and excited. Illyra said she had something important to show him. They left the house while the town was still quiet, moving quickly down empty streets and out toward the woods. The morning air was cool and fresh after the storm, and birds called out from the trees. They walked in silence for a while, each thinking about the past and what was about to happen. Ethan wondered if this was all real or just another dream, but when he looked at Illyra, he knew the truth. Her presence made everything sharp and clear, like the world had come alive again. Soon they reached the place where Illyra's ship was. Hidden, it was a new ship, sleeker and larger than the old one Ethan remembered. Its silver surface shimmered in the sunlight, and strange symbols ran along its side. Illyra pressed her hand to a small panel, and a door opened with a soft hiss. Inside, the air felt warmer and smelled faintly of something sweet, like flowers Ethan did not know. They stepped into a round room filled with soft blue lights. Screens on the walls showed moving images of stars and distant planets. Ethan stared in amazement. Everything looked strange, yet beautiful. Illyra smiled at his wide eyes and explained some of the things in the room, pointing out the navigation screen, the medical area, and the special seats that floated a few inches above the floor. Illyra showed Ethan a map of her world, a beautiful planet with 2 suns and wide blue forests. She explained that her people were in trouble. A powerful enemy, a group called the Varen, wanted to take over her world. They believed that only their kind should rule the stars, and they attacked any world that stood in their way. Illyra's family had tried to make peace, but the Varen only cared about power. The reason Illyra had returned to Earth was simple but important. Years ago, when Ethan helped her, he also helped fix something on her ship, a small device she called the Unity Crystal. It was a very old piece of technology, lost to most of the galaxy, but Ethan's ideas had helped bring it back to life. Illyra explained that only someone who truly understood both machines and kindness could unlock the crystal's full power. Now, the Unity Crystal was broken again. Illyra needed Ethan's help to fix it, because without it, her people could not fight the Varen. The crystal held information and energy that could change the course of the war. Illyra looked at Ethan with hope in her eyes, saying she trusted him more than anyone else. Ethan was shocked. He did not think he was special. He was just a man who fixed cars in a small town. But Illyra told him that sometimes the greatest heroes are not warriors or kings, but people who do the right thing even when no one is looking. She said that his way of looking at problems, his patience, and his kindness made him different. Together, they sat at a table inside the ship. Illyra brought out the Unity Crystal, a small glowing stone set inside a strange metal frame. Ethan felt a wave of memories rush over him as he touched it. He remembered the night she left, how she had given him a small piece of the crystal to keep. Now he placed his piece next to the main crystal. As soon as he did, the two pieces began to glow, and a thin line of light ran between them. Illyra explained that the crystal needed to be joined together again, but it would only work if both of them worked as a team. Ethan took a deep breath and started to study the crystal. He saw that some of the tiny wires were broken and that the power core was cracked. It was a problem that needed both patience and gentle hands. For the next few hours, they worked side by side. Illyra handed him tools and explained some of the alien technology, while Ethan used what he knew about machines to fix the broken parts. Sometimes the tools sparked or buzzed in his hands and he had to move slowly. Illyra watched his every move, helping when she could, always encouraging him. As they worked, they talked about the old days, and Ethan told her about the town. He described how things had changed, and how sometimes he felt out of place. Illyra listened and smiled, saying that people who dream about the stars always feel a little different. She said she was glad he never forgot her, and that she never stopped thinking about him, even in the middle of great battles. After many hours, they finally finished fixing the Unity Crystal. As they placed the last piece together, a bright blue light filled the room. The ship seemed to come alive, and the screens on the wall showed new images. Illyra touched the crystal and closed her eyes, whispering something in her own language. Ethan watched, feeling proud and amazed. When she opened her eyes, she told Ethan that he had saved her people once again. She said that with the crystal working, her world had a chance to fight back against the Varen. Ethan felt a warm glow of pride, knowing that he had helped even in a small way. But their work was not done. Illyra explained that she needed to return to her world as soon as possible, and she wanted Ethan to come with her. She said he could help her people in ways they could not help themselves. At first, Ethan was not sure. He had never left his town, never even traveled far from home. But when he looked at Illyra, he knew he could not say no. Illyra promised him that he would be safe, and that she would be with him every step of the way. She explained that her people had technology that could help him breathe their air and understand their language. Ethan thought about his father, his shop, and the small life he knew. It was hard to imagine leaving everything behind. But in his heart, he knew this was his chance to do something great, to make a difference beyond his small world. They made plans to leave that night. Illyra gave Ethan a special bracelet that would help him on her world. She explained how to use it, showing him the buttons and the small screen that could translate words. Ethan put it on, feeling the weight of the choice he was making. Before they left, Ethan wrote a note to his father, explaining that he needed to go on a journey, but that he would come back someday. He left the note on his bed, hoping his father would understand. As the sun set, Ethan and Illyra walked back to the ship. The sky was full of stars, and for the first time in years, Ethan felt like he belonged. He looked at Illyra, and she smiled at him, her eyes full of hope and trust. They climbed into the ship together, the doors closed, and the engines began to hum. As the ship lifted off the ground and soared into the sky, Ethan looked out the window and watched the town grow smaller and smaller. He felt fear, but also excitement, knowing that he was starting a new adventure with a friend he could never forget. Above them, the stars stretched out forever, and Ethan wondered what wonders and dangers waited for him on Illyra's world. But he was not alone. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. And as the ship flew higher, Ethan knew that his life would never be the same again. The ship moved quickly through space, and Ethan watched the stars pass by outside the window. Everything felt unreal to him, like a dream. He could feel the soft vibration of the engines and heard the quiet hum that filled the ship. Illyra sat next to him and showed him how to use the controls. She pressed a few buttons and a screen lit up, showing their path through the stars. Ethan had never been so far from home. He thought about his small town and his father, but he also felt excitement. He wanted to see new worlds, to learn about Alira's people and to help her. The bracelet on his wrist felt warm and fit perfectly. It made him feel safe. After some time, the ship slowed down. Alira told him they were near her world now. She pointed to a beautiful blue and green planet on the screen. The planet had 2 suns, just as she had told him before. As the ship came closer, Ethan could see blue forests, wide rivers, and tall mountains covered in silver mist. As they entered the atmosphere, Ethan felt the ship shake a little, but Alira's hands moved quickly on the controls. Soon they were flying smoothly. Again, they landed in a hidden place near the edge of a forest. Alira explained that it was safer to stay away from the big cities for now. She said her people were still in danger, and they had to be careful. When the ship's doors opened, Ethan stepped out onto soft blue grass. The air was cool and smelled sweet like flowers and fresh water. The trees were tall with silver leaves that caught the sunlight. Strange birds sang in the branches, and small animals with bright eyes watched them from the bush. Lir smiled at Ethan and said she was happy to be home, but she was also worried. She told him there were people who would not be happy to see a human. Some of her people were afraid of outsiders, and others did not trust anyone from another world. But Alira believed Ethan could help her show them that humans could be good friends. They walked together toward a small village hidden in the forest. As they got closer, Ethan saw houses made of stone and glass shining in the light of the 2 suns. People came out to see who was arriving. They stared at Ethan with wide eyes and whispered to each other. Some children ran to hide behind their parents. Alira raised her hand and spoke to them in her own language, telling them not to be afraid. One old woman stepped forward and asked Alira why she brought a stranger. Alira explained that Ethan had helped her long ago and that she trusted him with her life. The old woman looked at Ethan for a long time, then nodded and stepped aside. The other villagers followed her example, though some still looked nervous. Lir led Ethan to a small house at the edge of the village. Inside, everything was simple and clean. There were soft mats on the floor and colorful cloths hanging from the walls. Alira gave Ethan some water and a sweet fruit to eat. He thanked her and sat down, feeling tired but happy. After a short rest, Alira told Ethan she had to meet with some important people from her world. She asked him to stay in the house and wait for her. She promised to come back soon. Ethan agreed, though he was a little nervous to be alone in a strange place. While he waited, Ethan looked around the house. He saw pictures of Alira's family, medals and symbols of her people, and small machines that moved and made soft music. He wondered about her life here, about what she had lost and what she was fighting to protect. After a while, there was a soft knock at the door. Ethan opened it to find a young girl with pale purple hair and bright eyes. She smiled and said her name was Celine. She was Alira's younger cousin. Selena was curious about Ethan and asked him many questions about Earth. Ethan told her about his town, the cars he fixed, and the foods he liked. Selene laughed when he told her about pizza and hamburgers. Soon, more children came to see the visitor from another world. They listened to Ethan's stories and asked him to show them how to use some of the tools he had brought. Ethan felt more comfortable with the children. They reminded him of his friends back home, and he liked teaching them new things. As the sun began to set, Alira returned. Her face looked tired and serious. She told Ethan that things were even worse than she thought. The Varen had sent spies into the villages, trying to find her and the Unity Crystal. Some of the leaders of her people did not want to fight. They were afraid the Varen would destroy everything if they resisted. Alira said she had been asked to speak at a meeting of the council. She needed Ethan to come with her. She believed that showing the council a human who had helped her would prove that their people could work with others and not be afraid. Ethan felt nervous, but he wanted to help. He washed his face, put on clean clothes, and followed Alira to the council building in the center of the village. The building was large and bright, with tall windows and smooth white walls. Inside, many people sat in a circle, waiting for Lira. The council leader stood up and asked Alira to explain herself. Alira spoke bravely, telling the story of how Ethan helped her years ago and how he had fixed the Unity Crystal. She said that Ethan's kindness and skill showed that not all outsiders were dangerous. She asked the council to trust her and to let Ethan help them. The council listened quietly. After Illyra finished, the leader turned to Ethan and asked him to speak. Ethan felt his hands shake, but he remembered what Illyra had told him about courage. He spoke simply, telling them about his life and how he met Illyra. He said he did not come to cause trouble but only wanted to help his friend. He promised to do everything he could to protect her people. After Ethan spoke, there was a long silence. Some council members whispered to each other. Others looked at Ethan with new respect. Finally, the leader said they would give Ethan a chance. They would let him work with Illyra, but he would have to prove himself. In the days that followed, Ethan worked hard to earn the trust of Illyra's people. He fixed machines, helped with building repairs, and taught children how to make simple tools. He joined the villagers in planting food and carrying water from the river. Slowly, people began to accept him, but not everyone was happy. Some people watched Ethan closely and did not trust him. One night, someone left a warning sign on Illyra's door, telling her to send the human away. Illyra was worried, but she did not let fear stop her. She told Ethan to be careful and to stay close to her. One day, as Ethan helped repair a water pump, he heard shouting in the village square. He ran to see what was happening. A group of strangers in dark clothes had come to the village. Illyra recognized them as Varen spies. They demanded that the council hand over Illyra and the Unity Crystal. The council refused, and the spies grew angry. They tried to frighten the villagers, saying the Varen would destroy their world if they did not obey. Ethan saw that many people were afraid. He remembered what Illyra had said about courage, and he stepped forward. He told the spies that they could not win, because the people were strong when they stood together. Lia stood with Ethan, and together they faced the spies. The villagers saw their courage and joined them. The spies left, but everyone knew they would come back with more soldiers. That night, Illyra and Ethan sat together, looking at the stars. Illyra thanked Ethan for his bravery and for helping her people. She said she was glad he came to her world. Ethan said he was proud to stand by her side. They knew that harder days were coming. But now, with the Unity Crystal fixed and the trust of the people growing, they had hope. Together they would do whatever it took to protect Illyra's world and her people. Ethan promised himself that he would never give up, no matter how hard things became. And as he looked at Illyra, he knew he had found a new home, far from Earth, but close to a friend he would never forget. The next days passed quickly for Ethan. He woke early every morning, ready to help Illyra and her people. He learned new things every day. Illyra taught him more about her world and the strange machines they used. She showed him how to understand her people's language with the help of the bracelet on his wrist. Soon he could talk to most villagers without any trouble. The children liked him, and many adults came to him for help when something was broken, even with the peace in the village. Ethan could feel tension in the air. Everyone knew that the Varen spies would come back, and next time they might bring soldiers. Some villagers were afraid, but Illyra tried to give them hope. She spent many hours with the council, planning how to defend the village if trouble came. One night, Illyra and Ethan sat together in her small house. Outside, the stars shined brightly through the window. Illyra spoke in a soft voice. She told Ethan that the Unity Crystal was the key to stopping the Varen, but there was a problem. The crystal's power could help protect the village, but only if they found the right way to use it. The old books from Illyra's people spoke about a special place in the mountains where the crystal's power could be unlocked. No one had gone there in many years because the way was dangerous. Lir asked Ethan if he would go with her to the mountains. She said she trusted him more than anyone else. Ethan agreed right away. He said he would not let her go alone. Together they packed supplies, tools, and the Unity Crystal. Selena, Illyra's cousin, brought them food for their journey and wished them good luck. The next morning, Illyra and Ethan left the village before sunrise. The forest was quiet and full of soft blue light. They followed a narrow path that led to the foot of the mountains. As they walked, Illyra told Ethan stories about the mountains, about brave warriors, lost treasures, and old legends. Ethan liked hearing about her world, and he shared stories about Earth too. Illyra laughed when he told her about the first time he tried to ride a horse and fell off. The climb was hard. The path was steep, and rocks sometimes slipped under their feet, but Illyra was strong, and Ethan did not give up. They helped each other, climbing over fallen trees and crossing fast streams. Sometimes they stopped to rest and eat. Illyra showed Ethan which fruits and nuts were safe to eat. He was surprised by the sweet taste of the blueberries that grew near the streams. As they climbed higher, the air grew thin and cold. Clouds drifted low over the mountain tops, and mist made it hard to see. Ethan felt tired, but Illyra's courage kept him going. They found a small cave and made a fire to keep warm. As they sat together, Ethan asked Illyra if she was afraid. Illyra looked at the fire and said she was afraid, but she knew she could not give up. She said she would do anything to protect her people, and she was glad Ethan was with her. After a night in the cave, they continued climbing. Soon they reached the top of the highest mountain. There, hidden by old stones, was the place the old books had described. It was a wide, flat area surrounded by silver pillars and strange symbols cut into the rocks. In the center was a large stone table. Lia placed the unity crystal on the table. The crystal began to glow with a soft blue light. Suddenly, the ground shook, and the symbols on the rocks started to shine. A strong wind blew through the pillars, and Ethan felt his skin tingle. He saw images appear in the air, images of Illyra's world, her people, and the varying ships coming closer. Lia touched Ethan's hand and told him that the crystal wanted them to work together. She said the old legends were true only when two hearts, one from her world and one from another, worked as one. Could the crystal's power be unlocked? Ethan remembered the first time he fixed Illyra's ship on Earth. He remembered how they trusted each other and how that trust made them strong. He nodded to Illyra, and together they placed their hands on the crystal. A warm light wrapped around them, and they felt a wave of energy move through their bodies. The crystal showed them what to do. They saw how to connect the crystal's energy to the machines in the village. They saw ways to build new defenses that would protect the people from the Varen. The crystal also showed them how to use simple things like water, sunlight, and the strong stone of the mountains to make the machines work without needing rare parts. When the light faded, Illyra and Ethan felt tired, but they understood what to do. Illyra hugged Ethan, and for a moment both of them stood quietly, holding each other. Then they packed the crystal and started back down the mountain. The journey back to the village was faster. They moved with new energy, knowing they had a plan to save the people. When they reached the village, the council and the villagers gathered to hear what they had learned. Lir and Ethan explained everything. They showed the villagers how to build the new defenses. Some villagers were scared to try, but Ethan encouraged them. He showed them how easy the machines could be if they worked together. Selene and the other children helped carry supplies and bring water. Day after day, everyone worked side by side. They built strong walls around the village and set up small towers with warning bells. They used the crystal's power to make shields that could stop enemy weapons. Ethan used his skills to fix anything that broke, and Illyra kept everyone brave and hopeful. As they worked, Ethan saw how strong the villagers were. Even the oldest people helped however they could. Everyone wanted to protect their home. Ethan felt proud to be a part of their world. Then, one night, the warning bells rang. Lights flashed in the sky, and people shouted that the Varen ships were coming. Everyone rushed to their places. Illyra stood at the front of the village with the council, and Ethan helped guide people to safety. The Varen soldiers landed near the village and began to march forward. They shouted threats and demanded that Illyra give them the unity crystal. Illyra refused. She stood tall and proud, telling the Varen that her people would not surrender. The Varen tried to break through the new shields, but the crystal's power stopped them. Their weapons did not work, and the walls held strong. The villagers used everything Ethan and Illyra had taught them. They worked together, moving quickly and bravely. Ethan saw that the Varen were confused. They did not expect the villagers to fight back. They did not understand the machines powered by simple things like sunlight and water. The Varen grew angry and tried harder, but they could not win. In the middle of the battle, Ethan saw a group of Varen soldiers sneaking around the back of the village. He called out to Illyra and ran to stop them. Together, they used their courage and quick thinking to block the soldiers and send them running. The fight lasted for many hours, but the villagers did not give up. Finally, as the sun began to rise, the Varen realized they could not win. They left, shouting threats, but everyone knew they would not come back soon. When the battle ended, the villagers cheered. They hugged each other, and some even cried with relief. Illyra was called a hero, and the council thanked Ethan for his courage and ideas. That night, there was a big celebration in the village. People danced and sang songs of hope. Illyra and Ethan sat together, watching the stars. Illyra thanked Ethan for everything he had done. Ethan smiled and said he was only brave because she believed in him. As they sat together, Ethan realized that he did not miss his old life as much as he thought. He had found a new home, new friends, and a purpose. He knew there would still be challenges ahead, but he also knew he would never have to face them alone. With Illyra by his side, he felt ready for anything the future might bring. The days after the battle were filled with hope and new beginnings. The village was safe, and the people worked together to rebuild what had been damaged. The Unity Crystal glowed softly in the center of the village, a symbol of strength and friendship. Illyra was celebrated as a hero, but she knew that the fight was not over. The Varen might return, and her people had much to do to prepare. Ethan felt proud and happy. He had never imagined that fixing machines and helping a stranger would lead him to this life. He loved the quiet mornings in the blue forests, the songs of the strange birds, and the warm smiles of the villagers. Most of all, he loved being with Eliod. One evening, as the two sat by a small fire outside the village, Illyra looked at Ethan with a serious expression. She told him that the council wanted to honor him as a friend of their people. They planned a special ceremony to welcome him as part of their world. Ethan was surprised and a little nervous. He never thought he would be accepted by another world, let alone become a hero. Illyra smiled and said that he deserved it because of his courage, kindness, and strength. The day of the ceremony arrived. The village gathered in the clearing where the silver pillars stood. People wore their best clothes, and colorful banners flew in the breeze. Illyra wore a shining robe and held the Unity Crystal. She stood before the crowd and spoke about the power of friendship between different worlds. Then, Illyra called Ethan forward. She placed a simple necklace around his neck, a gift from her people. The necklace was made of shining stones that reflected the light like stars. She told Ethan that he was now a part of their world and that they would always stand together. Ethan felt a warm glow in his heart. He looked at the faces around him, people who had once been strangers but were now friends. He realized that he had found a new family. After the ceremony, Illyra and Ethan walked to a quiet place near the river. Illyra took Ethan's hands in hers and said she could never forget him, no matter how far apart they were. She told him that she wanted him to stay with her, to live among her people, and to help build a better future together. Ethan thought about Earth, his father, and the life he had left behind. It was hard to imagine leaving everything he knew. But he also thought about the adventures he had shared with Illyra, the friends he had made, and the hope they had created. Finally, Ethan looked into Illyra's eyes and smiled. He said he wanted to stay. He wanted to be part of her world and help protect it. Illyra's face lit up with joy, and she promised that together they would face whatever challenges came their way. They returned to the village hand in hand, ready to begin a new chapter. Ethan knew that the future was uncertain, but he was not afraid. With Illyra by his side and the strength of their friendship, he believed they could overcome anything. And as the stars shone bright above the blue forest, Ethan felt at peace. He had found a home among the stars, a place where he belonged, and a friend he could never forget.